Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of the AtRandom podcast. My name is Rick Timmis.
I'm John Wordsworth.
I'm Jackson Matthews.
So, joining us today, we've got a guest joining us. So let's introduce him straight away. Slightly different to what I said in the show notes, but that always catches somebody out. So joining us today is Marty Ballard. Hey, Marty, introduce yourself. How are you doing?
Hey, Rick. This is Marty Ballard. I'm over in Houston, Texas, and glad to be joining you guys.
Fantastic. Hey, thank you very much for coming along. And so, how are we all doing today? How are you, John? Where are you at the moment? Are you still in Sweden?
Certainly am. Still kicking back here in Stockholm. It's I had a moment of awesomeness the other day, which was very quickly shot down. It was kind of went outside and I was like, oh, it's finally starting to get warm. Spring is finally here. And then a double whammy came later. It's like 12 degrees. Pretty nice. My friends in the UK just had 20 degrees. It's like, oh. And then as I leave work, massive hailstorm. It's like, what? Middle of April, massive hailstorm. So yeah, a bit colder here in Stockholm, but you know, at least the beer's expensive. So.
Fantastic, good stuff. Hey, so Jackson, now you're sitting there in the shadows as usual.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly.
so how are the domestic duties going, Jack?
Oh, they're all right. They're a whole floor away at the moment. I can occasionally hear some whimpering from downstairs, but it's like it's all guilt free. It's brilliant. I'm off the clock. I've got mine's just not completely guilt free because we've got the old cot that we don't use because I accidentally bumped the red on it once, so we don't touch that one anymore. But it's sat there at the bottom of the bed. It's looking at me the whole time. It's just reminding you have a child and you're shirking your responsibilities upstairs. So yeah. But it's alright. It's alright. As you say, it actually looks a lot dimmer here than it is. It's not bad. I've got all the lights on and everything, but there's something about this room that just makes it look dingier on camera. Mysterious. That's what I look like.
Still only got 20-watt light bulbs in Cornwall, that's the problem.
Well, yeah, that's right. We make up for it by having good beer.
I'm trying to think of the name of those lamps. They used to have those lamps down, the old miners' lamps that used to use this. It began with a C. It was something like carbolic lamps or something like this, you know. And they put out this dim light with this chemical compound you burn. And it's like, you know, back in medieval times. I could see Jack out there in the back and beyond in the countryside, like, you know, with the old medieval lamps going and this. And are you sure you're not coming to us via a temporal portal, Jack?
God, what you're saying is about right. It's about the level of technology out here in this, because it's a little cottage out in the middle of nothing. But significantly less impressive than Houston, Texas. I'll be bound.
What's that?
I was just saying it's probably less impressive here than it is over in Texas.
Well, it's definitely warmer here, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
When was the last time you had hail over there?
Oh, we get everything here, so. It's just finally starting to warm up, though. So it's a lot. You guys are telling me everything in Celsius, and I have no idea what temperature that actually is. It sounds freezing to me, but you guys sound happy about it.
We should all convert to Kelvin while we got a chance. Let's just set that down now.
Make it universal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we do that? Temperature in Kelvin, and let's just set everybody's time zone to UTC. Can we do that?
Done.
So 10 degrees C is about 50 Fahrenheit. So.
Okay. So
yeah, that's still cold.
Not in Stockholm.
Yeah, it's 75 degrees here. So what's that? Like 25 for you?
Wow, that's really warm. Yeah, that's nice.
No, on a side note, my dad actually spent some time over in Texas. He said the climate was really something. It was completely different to over here. It made you feel better all over. He said, just in general, you just forgot about so many like maladies that you had otherwise because it just took the edge off it all.
Just being in Texas makes you feel good. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's just weird. It sounds nice.
I was saying to Marty earlier on, if you troll around on the web a little bit, it seems to me that Texas is kind of like quite forward. It's quite at the forefront of the things that you might discover about the states. There seems to be a lot of activity externally. If there's going to be a point where people start coming out and talking to the world, very often it seems that those people seem to be a lot from Texas, almost as though the cultural attitude is a bit more outgoing maybe than some of the other places. What do you think about that statement, Marty?
I'm just afraid that you're talking about the folks you might see on an episode of Cops running around with no shirt on. So we have a lot. We have a lot of technology here. So there's a lot of folks you're going to see in the tech field that have a lot of good things to say. So.
Yeah. Well, do you know, I mean, what's great about one of the things that I think is really inspiring about doing this show and using the Google tech for doing this is like, here we are right now. Two of us in the UK, you're in Texas, and John's out there in Sweden, and we can all come and hang out together in this community and talk about things that we're into and so on and so forth, just kind of randomly, and that's really cool that we can do that. Well, so we've got some news items. Let's get straight into that. Because I want to try not to make this a 2 hours 45 minutes show today, if we can, and So John's put some stuff up here, and you've got Microsoft Band released in the UK and Europe. John, tell us more. What is Microsoft Band, first of all?
Yeah, so this might not be news to Marty. I think it might have been out for quite a while in the civilized world, but here in the UK, I think either today or very recently, the Microsoft Band was released. And it's Microsoft's stab at a fitness band or a smartwatch. Not really entirely sure which it's aiming to be. More than the fitness band, but I would probably not go quite as far to say it's a smartwatch. So, but basically, it looks a little bit like you've got an ASBO from the pictures I've seen. It's just a big black band that clips around your wrist. But apart from the looks, it actually looks like a pretty solid fitness band. So it's about 170 quid, because obviously it's $200 in America, and they almost make it the same in pounds so that they can get more money from us. But it's kind of crammed full of sensors. So it's got like it's got your sort of standard heartbeat sensor. It's got GPS built in, so you don't need to have your phone on you if you go running. It's got some sort of kind of sweat sensor, so it can tell when you're sweating. I guess that's supposed to be both for fitness and also to see if you're stressed. It's got kind of a UV. I don't want to know how much I'm sweating. I don't want to be told I'm sweating. How unhealthy you are at the moment.
Yeah, I was wondering there and thinking to myself, it's got a heartbeat monitor, a heartbeat sensor, it can tell you how your heart's beating. Well, I don't want to point out the obvious, but if your heartbeat has stopped, right, you're not paying any attention to the watch, are you? It's irrelevant.
Maybe you should be. Maybe you should be paying a bit of attention. The watch will maybe give you some pointers. No, keep beating. No, don't stop, keep going.
He's going to tell me, yeah, has it got a defibrillator function on it as well?
I think they're saving that for version 2. So, but no, so it's I guess pretty big news for Microsoft, and I think it could be quite cool. It's got the usual Tiles interface, and it's kind of all geared towards health and fitness at the moment, unless you've got a Windows phone, and then it comes with the Cortana, which I still find kind of a weird. Let's take this character from a computer game and name it our Siri equivalent. But I think it looks pretty cool. So if the Apple Watch wasn't coming out in a month, I would probably buy one.
So have you come across this Microsoft Band in the States then, Marty? Is it already out there? Have some of you guys had access to it?
Oh, Rick, I'll be honest with you here. I try not to come across anything with Microsoft's name on it. So.
I love you, brother. Yes, sir.
No, I haven't come across it, and I won't. But
I mean, I'll take it. It's very similar to the Apple thing anyway.
Linux, yeah. Yeah.
But I think it works with iOS and Android, or at least it will.
So, well, I mean, we're always on the lookout for people to sponsor the show or send us bits of kits. We often put messages out like this. So this one is going out to Microsoft. If they'd like to send me one of those Microsoft bands, I'll do a very special show of AtRandom Will It Blend.
You've already put the Windows logo up on screen, though, Rick. I don't think we were on air at the time, but you did flash it. Since Google's recording everything we say, anyway.
If you can get 2 of them, I'll do a drop test with the other one.
If we get 3, then we can keep one.
Well, I mean, the question I have is, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I don't wear a watch, right? I gave up wearing a watch when they put a clock on the mobile phone, because I thought, well, you know, if I want to know the time, I'll just pick up the mobile phone and look at that. And so now I have everything on the mobile phone, including a clock. And so now they're trying to sell me this watch wristband idea, which I'm just not into at all. But I just wonder, are people really going to go and buy these things? Do people really want this kind of gadgety band thing, or do you think it's a bit of a fad? What do you think, Marty?
So I'll speak up here. Yeah, I have the Asus ZenWatch, and I just recently purchased it. Last year I went to Google I/O, and I got the Moto 360, and I decided I was going to sell it and change watches. And in the week or 2 period I was waiting for my new one to get here, I was just lost. It has really become just an integral part of my life. I love having it. Love getting my notifications on my wrist. It's really great. So I'm all for it.
For you than like reaching for your phone or something, just having like the watch right there kind of thing.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, I don't want to be like some old school person that reaches down and pull out my phone and look at on my screen on my phone to read my messages when I have them right there on my wrist.
Oh, we're old now.
I was going to say, that's quite funny, isn't it? And we consider that to be like, that's yesterday stuff. You had to reach into your pocket to get the stuff. It's like,
like a Neanderthal.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, man. So, well, I'm going to bring this up to the camera, so those people watching on the live feed, but I have this like this kind of Lord of the Rings, to take him from the Lord of the Rings theme. This is kind of one device to phone them all, ring them all, get the time on it. So this here is my mobile phone, and and I can order pizza on this, and call people up, and I can watch the internet on it, and I can get the time on it, and I look pretty stupid at the bus stop when I'm talking to my wife with this massive thing stuck to my ear, but that's my device of choice.
You strap it to your wrist, Rick, and you'll be down with the kids.
Yeah, hey, I could strap like this, and then I could tell them it's the latest steampunk phone.
Exactly, yeah. You put enough straps on it, and suddenly you're a subculture.
Well, I
how to get one of these.
You've got all the toys.
You can talk without your hands up there with your big device. So.
Is that one of them Google Glass jobs?
Yeah.
It is.
So
it's been fun to have.
I kind of I agree with you with the watch, and I can see it becoming really useful as I'm bad at looking at my phone anyway, so I sometimes miss messages, and I think a watch would really change that. How about the glasses? Can you actually see yourself using them in real life? I mean, beyond the toy.
I could see it being like more of a work product than just running around the house or running around the neighborhood with it on. It is really great, and you get your messages, and it's the voice on it is super accurate. But people take notice when you're wearing it, So I think Google needs to come out with something smaller, less noticeable, looks more like glasses, where it'd be more accepted. So
people get paranoid, I suppose, if they see you wearing them.
I've had it for about 1.5 years or so, or almost 2 years now, and I've only had one person say something to me like, "Don't take my picture with that." Okay, I wasn't going to.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm not taking your picture.
But people are kind of getting strange looks sometimes.
Man, that must have happened That must have happened when the digital cameras knew, right? Hey, you're not going to take my picture with that evil box, eh?
Yeah, steal my stuff.
Exactly, right?
It's like, why would I want to take your picture? Sort of random in the street, you know?
I've had a couple of folks ask if my watch could take pictures, but I'm like, no, it doesn't have a camera, so. But it's so less noticeable. People don't even notice that it's a smartwatch, so.
Yeah.
I suppose that's the other thing about watches is like if you want to check some information, you can do so a lot more discreetly than when you're looking at your phone.
And that's, I think, one reason why they're going to win, because like people get bored in meetings, and people have a lot of meetings. You can look at your watch when you're bored in a meeting.
Yeah.
You can't get your phone out.
You still look like you're bored though, don't you? Checking your watch. It's an age-old symbol for looking bored.
I never get time to do that in meetings. I'm always so busy talking to everybody.
I'm shocked, Rick. I'm shocked.
No,
Well,
I guess
okay.
cool.
Well, that's me interjecting to push a segue in here. But we'll see how that goes with the Microsoft Band. But rest assured, I won't be getting one. Now then, what's the next one up then? JetBrains Cleon released. What's this, John? Tell us more.
This is just a little bit of news I found out about yesterday, day before, and it's massively geeky, so we can keep it pretty quick. But a company called JetBrains, for a few years, have been making, loads of programmer products, but one of them was IntelliJ, which was a Java IDE for Java developers.
Yep.
And they have recently released something they've been working on for, I guess, a couple of years now, because I've seen the odd post here and there, called Sea Lion. It's kind of a funny joke in the sense of it's Sea Lion, because it's for programming C or C++.
Oh wait, sorry, I'm there now. Yeah.
But, the logo makes it more obvious because the C is a sea lion bent around in the shape of a C. But anyway, so they've made a cross-platform C++ programming environment. It's not free, quite the opposite. It's kind of €200 to pick up a license if you're a
The
company.
opposite of free, love it.
Well, it's not a budget IDE. It's obviously meant to be a professional IDE, but it's just pretty interesting to see something new on the marketplace, because obviously every platform has their own IDE. Visual Studio on Windows, Xcode on Mac. I'm going to say Qt Creator on Linux, even though it works on all three, but it's clearly geared towards Linux. So it's quite interesting to see a product come out which is actually geared towards all three, and this is aiming to deliver that. So the project files that you edit while you're making a project are just CMake files, which means in theory you don't even need the IDE once you've done it, and you can still build on all three platforms. But yeah, it's quite new, so I think it's it's probably got some evolution to sort of go before it stands out from the crowd, but I think it's one to watch. So.
Does it come with any kind of trial or anything like that where you can download it and have a play around with it for a bit?
Yeah. So you can grab a 30-day trial, and if you're working on open source projects that have been going for more than like 3 months, I guess just to prove that you've not just made a website to get a free license, then they'll send you a free license to the main developers. So.
Okay, all right, that sounds pretty cool. So I wonder whether I could get one then, being a Ubuntu member and member of the Ubuntu development team. I might try and blag a free license to have a play around with that.
I suspect earlier on you're more likely to get one, so I'd go for it.
Yeah, I think I might do that. I might do that shortly afterwards. It'd be really good to give that a go, actually, and have a little bit of a look at it. I've tried a few of the different IDEs that are out there, and I must admit the IntelliJ IDE I've looked at in the past. And I like what they've done. They have done a pretty good job. So I'll give that a go, and maybe we'll maybe while I'm there, maybe I'll invite somebody to come on and talk about it on AtRandom whilst I'm there at the same time, John. Hey, we'll see how it goes.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Well, I got some news as well to do with the upcoming release. I think it's going to be in about a week's time. With the release of Ubuntu, or the new 15.04 Vivid Vervet releases will be out and ready. And that will of course include Kubuntu, the Kubuntu Linux flavor of Ubuntu, and I installed the the Beta 2 candidate just at the weekend. I've been testing the Plasma 5 desktop stuff for a while, and I'm working with that, but I actually installed it for production use at the weekend on my laptop, and it is really, really nice. It's proving it's working really well. It is faster than the old 10 KDE desktop on my old laptop, which is about 7 or 8 years old. So there have obviously been some efficiency improvements in the Qt framework and the underlying KDE 5 frameworks, and so that's coming very soon. But for people that are out there, what we need in Ubuntu is for guys and girls to go off to ubuntu.org and download the Beta 2 release, and even just try the live installer, have a look at the new Plasma 5 desktop and see what you think of it, and try it out and see what you think. I think you'll be very impressed.
Sounds cool. First question, what's a Vivid Vervet?
I do not know what a vervet. I keep coming up with animals, and I'm going to actually we're going to have to Google that one, John. I think it's some sort of like foxy, weaselly, stoaty type thing.
What do you say, a vervet?
It's a monkey. The vervet is a monkey.
Cool.
Oh, yes, so yes.
Oh. Yeah, okay.
He's one of the monkeys that looks a bit like a rat or something, and then he like not the monkey as you understand it. He's like one of them things with all tufts around his head. Oh yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
That's pretty
So
cool.
hey, I'm famous as well. I just put Vervet into Google, and the third entry in there is me, my little face, and it says really impressed with #Ubuntu Vivid Vervet 1504. Obviously, not many people searching for the word vervet right now. But yeah, so that's coming out. And sorry, Jack, did I overspeak you then, as usual?
Sorry, no, I was just yeah, I think the lag beat us. No, I was just thinking to myself. It reminds me that the new Ubuntu's just come out as well, hasn't it? It just reminded me of that because they got like a similar naming system, haven't they? I think it's Utopic Unicorn at the moment.
It is at the moment. That's version 14.10, so 20.
Yeah.
So the October release from 2014, which is Utopic Unicorn. That's current, and so on the same date, on the 23rd, there will be the release of Ubuntu as well, Vivid Vervet. So they're the same distribution. The only difference is that the Ubuntu flavor is using all of the Qt and KDE frameworks to give you a KDE desktop, and of course Ubuntu comes with Unity, the Unity desktop. And then you've got a couple of other flavors as well, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the main edge of the program today, because I know that there's going to be a lot going on with Ubuntu when we start talking about System76, and Marty starts telling us more about his wonderful laptop.
Go.
So I'm going to segue again, and if my Ubuntu Studio works really well, I'll cut this whole little section and replace it with a little, which will be nice. So let's dive into app reviews then. So John, app reviews, what have you got for us this week?
Well, I'm going to blast through this because I'm interested in getting straight to deep thought. So I'm just going to quickly say it's been out for years. I go through phases of using it, and I haven't mentioned it before. So Splashtop is basically VNC if you don't want to go through any effort.
Perfect.
So you download the streamer, you put it on your desktop, and you set it running. You go to work, and you pull out your iPhone, iPad, Android device, Mac, Linux, anything box, and you run the client, and it connects. I go through phases where I use it because it's like £2 a month or something. So it's basically, when you want to use it, you subscribe. When you get bored of it, you stop. It's just really good because I'm at work sometimes. I'd love to set some videos or something, ripping and encoding from DVD, but each one takes an hour, but only a few seconds to set going. So it's just really cool, and you can do it from your phone, your iPad, mobile phone. Even when you're out on the train or something, it works pretty efficiently. But the best thing is just no router setup or router, if we're being My friend's American. He always says router. It's like, it sounds so wrong. But yeah, so it's just really cool. It's just like no firewall crap. It just works. That Splashtop.
So it actually does work.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I've not had any problems. I even just mostly just for shits and giggles. Excuse the French. Used it to play games, and if it's not like a FPS or something where you need the frame rate, it's actually pretty good. Because it's optimized to use NVIDIA hardware so that the latency is low, so you can actually use it to play strategy games over the internet. It's pretty cool.
Hey, I'm going to look that one out, John. Because I've been using TeamViewer on my iRacing rig to my mobile phone, so I can be out with the family and still register for a race. It's been a little bit flaky, but I'd like to have a look at that. So I will do that. Splashtop, fantastic. We'll links in the show notes on that one. So, well, it's me up next. I want to talk. I did have some apps to talk about. I'm talk about this app today because you that watch the AtRandom show will know that Rick is the only guy that never has the lower third because he's on a substandard platform. But not anymore, folks. Here it is. You see, I have solved all my problems with a copy of Windows 7.
Cash.
No, you know that I'm lying to you. So, yeah, I want to talk about the Google Talk plugins. These come as a set of .deb packages that you can install on Ubuntu or any Debian-based Linux flavor, and indeed you can get RPMs as well. The problem I was having, which developed with some updates and upgrades of the Chromium browser, which is the default, that's the open source version of Google's Chrome, that browser has got the Google Talk and Google Video renderers built into the software. However, under the Chromium open source version, they're kind of well, they're not kind of, they're really broken, and so the apps don't load. You can't get the Hangout toolbox. You can't have the dog face and the pirate hat, and you can't have the lower third. What I discovered though is that by not using that browser and by using Firefox, the Hangout tools for to download the Google Talk.debs, which I did and installed, and hey presto, lower third works, all the apps are working, and well, not all of them, but the apps that I've got there are working, and the functionality is really pleasing. So that's my win really, is the Google Talk.deb functionality for the plugins in Firefox. Absolute genius, works for me.
Awesome.
Jackson.
Begging your pardon, I was just trying to see if what I was about to talk about runs on any of the alternative platforms, because I thought I might be interested to see if it worked on if they had a version for Mac and Linux. But anyway, yes, I want to talk about Construct 2 by a company called Syrah. And basically, this is it's an application. I mean, I've only tested it on the Windows one. I was just trying to see if I could find out if it was available on the other ones. But as soon as you've gone full Windows now, Rick, I suspected it wouldn't. It'd be all right. It's basically a application for making your own games, and when I say games, I mean I think to start with, in the early versions, it was for like web-based games like HTML5 stuff. That's the basic framework that it uses. But they've they've built it, rebuilt it, and extended it, and now you can you can use it to make like apps for mobile devices, tablets. I mean, you can even use it to make a desktop app if you just want to sort of have for it to create an exe, and you can just run that from you. But as far as functionality goes, it's I mean it's programming based, but not programming in the sense of like you're using code, like if you were programming it in C+ or something. It's more like I guess I've not got enough experience with Scratch to be able to say 100%, but it's comparable to Scratch in like the way that you put the apps together, because you've got event blocks and if then conditional statements, all that kind of thing, and you're doing it all with like a graphical interface, and you're dragging like these event blocks around each other, linking them onto each other, that kind of thing, and you just import your assets into like that. As far as to make it sound like it's simple, because it's anything but weak. This is extremely powerful, this thing. I mean, way of an example, I mean, if you gave me like any 2D game, I mean 3D it doesn't do so well yet. It is possible, but it's beyond my knowledge. At my current level of knowledge, if you gave me any 2D game, I'm 90% sure, assets notwithstanding, I could recreate it in this without any real obstacle. Seriously.
Challenge accepted, Jackson.
90%. Anything that I can't do is the 10%. Just to so if you give me anything, I mean, for example, like something like Lemmings. Lemmings uses like some like funny canvas stuff. But you could do it. Somebody could do it because people have been experimenting with all kinds of plugins on the forums. You can create your own custom plugins and bring them into to cover like pretty much any eventuality you care to think of. But as far as things like all like, the nitpicky little things like platform physics, say they've got like built-in behaviors for that already. So if you want to make like a really basic like Mario style platformer, you can just have your graphic, attach the platform behavior to it, and that's it. The controls are like mapped to it, and you can like tweak the things like the physics for it, how high he jumps, friction. I mean, it basically it's been responding to like a really long-running community environment. So people have just kept on suggesting things. What about this? I want to make a game like this. They keep coming in with new examples, and they keep like adding to it and adding to it. I mean, it's a bit more relevant now because like they say they're about to work on a Construct 3. Which I assume is going to address a lot of long-running limitations with the engine. But as I say, this thing is seriously versatile, and I think you could recreate just about any 2D game you've ever played with enough time. I mean, seriously, I'm not even joking.
I'm just trying to think of the good challenge for you, Jackson.
Just trying to think of one that couldn't be done in it. I mean, in a 2D game.
I'm just going to set you a challenge.
As I say, Lemmings, something like that might be a little bit tricksy, but not impossible.
Something funny going on.
At my level of knowledge, I don't think I could. I mean, obviously, it'd take bloody forever because you still have to like make the graphics and such. But like, as far as like plugging the bits together, finding a way for this application to do what those games did or still do. I mean, you're not limited to old school graphics, obviously. I mean, it covers like that. You can choose a retro style project, or you can have like full HD graphics if you like. It's extremely powerful for what it is. I think Game Maker did something similar, but as far as
as an introduction to game development, it's really nice.
I've heard it's a toss-up between the two, depending on what you prefer. But I mean, there's a free version on this. It's obviously limited, the free version, but the license for it isn't expensive. I mean, as far as like it's a commercial license. But if you they want more money if you like sell more than a certain amount. But if you sell above this threshold, then you really haven't got a problem with the license because you've made it basically. You've made like Flappy Bird or whatever happens to be zeitgeist at the time. But
that sounds pretty cool, though, Jack. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah,
it does sound
incredibly powerful.
So we've got the web URL for that in the show notes, SCIRRA.com, and so we can go and take a look at that and see how it goes. But that sounds pretty good. I have used Scratch in the past quite a bit, and used it with the kids, and it's a pretty good tool for getting your thought processes in the right place. So if it's anything like that, I think it's going to come highly recommended. Well, of course, we like to throw our guests into the mire of choosing an app as well. So without further ado, let's put Marty in the hot seat and see if he's got any kind of favourite app going on out there. Marty, do you have an app review for us?
Sure. I brought my own. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course it is.
So currently, here's an app that I've written, and it's in Android, obviously. And what it is, it's called Chaotic Earth. And so it allows you to add your friends from Google+, Facebook, and Twitter, and then you can choose which friends you want to monitor and get alerts if they're in a situation of a natural disaster, a hurricane, a tornado, thunderstorm, all those types of things, blizzards, whatever. So you get alert on your phone, and then you can see the alert in a list view here, and you can tap it and see them on a map and see the storm that the alert's for. Haven't released it to the public yet, but it's in beta. So if you want to plus me on Google Plus and ask for an invite, I'll invite you in.
Cool.
Oh, right.
Okay.
So does it show you their latest activity on Facebook, just so you can like see that they're still posting since or during, just to show that they're all right, kind of thing?
It does not, but what you can do is you can message out to Facebook from the app to tag them and see if they can respond back.
Yeah,
you can message out to Google Plus, Facebook. You can text them from the app. You can tweet them from the app. You can do all that kind of stuff. So.
Oh, okay. Yep. No, that's a good idea. Yeah.
It's running on Android, and it has a Google App Engine backend that
where
I
does
wrote.
it get its information from with regards to the weather and stuff? Like, where does it get like the disaster information from?
I've got about 12 or 14 different sources I'm pulling disaster information from. So.
Oh, okay.
I get my earthquake data worldwide, and then I get all my storm data and flood data and fire data just for the U.S. right now. But I'm trying to expand that out to next up is going to be Canada and Australia and Japan. I'm going to roll those out in the next couple of months. So then hopefully I can get the UK in there, and then pick out some other countries. So it's kind of a country by country thing. Unless I can find something that covers all of Europe, will allow me to get all those alerts as well. So.
Well, I guess
it's a fun project.
I guess in 6 months' time that'll be you. I guess in 6 months' time that'll be you with all the data.
I hope so. So it's been a really fun project. So I've been working on it for about a year and a half now.
I'll warn you now, UK's earthquakes are pretty crappy. They're probably not worth keeping track of.
I haven't seen any at all. So.
Yeah, in terms of danger to life, I think I put the UK quite low on that list. Natural disaster-wise, it's a pretty safe place. But it must be a really big thing in America, right? I mean, we only ever hear about the really big ones over here, but it must happen all the time, right?
We get a lot, mostly on the California coast, but there's a thing, I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, called the Ring of Fire that goes around the Earth, and that's where all the earthquakes happen around the world, and it's really interesting to see that, because you can turn it on just to see earthquakes, and it's really cool how you can just basically see that Ring of Fire that you've heard about, all your life, where all those earthquakes happen. They happen there's so many that happen every day. It's amazing. So I've learned a lot of doing apps. So.
When I looked at the Ring of Fire as a kid, it always like calmed me down to look at, because I look at it and see it was nowhere near me. As a kid, I was like terrified of natural disaster. I looked at the picture of the ring, and I thought, oh no, it's all right, nowhere near the edge. It's brilliant.
Yeah, you're safe over there.
Yeah.
So on this app, Marty, I know you mentioned Facebook and Twitter. Do you also does it have Google Plus integration as well? Does it do that?
Yes, absolutely. That's a requirement. You have to sign into Google Plus first, and then you can sign in to Facebook or Twitter if you choose. So it's a Google-based app.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really good. Basically you're gonna, on an Android device, you're gonna have Google usually, aren't you? You're gonna have your Google account, so you've got kind of all the major platforms covered. That sounds really good.
Yeah, and if we're successful with it on Android, we're gonna probably come out with the Apple version. So.
Yes.
So.
Awesome. So do you have a planned release date? When do you have any ideas on when you're going to release it, Marty?
We're hoping by the end of May to release it publicly. So, but right now we're letting people join up our beta group. So.
Okay, all right.
So,
well, I will. I'll send you a ping on Plus afterwards, and I'll certainly give it a go for sure. And maybe when you've got it released, maybe we could bring you back on and do something a bit more in depth than just an app review. Maybe we could dig right into it and do something more detailed.
Absolutely.
That'd be absolutely great. So.
So we get that'll be really good actually, because it'd be great to get into much deeper into the technical aspect of it. You're seeing it as we get into deep thought in a moment and start talking about the System76 laptop you've got there and that kind of stuff. This is the section where it gets more technical, so give us an opportunity to talk about the development tools, the way you've been operating, how you kind of hooked it all together, where you're getting your data streams from, and really kind of chew on how that app hangs together as well. So we'll definitely look at doing that in the future with you, Marty, once you've got it released. That'd be really, really cool.
That sounds great. I would love to do that.
Okay, so of course we're not here to talk about that today. What we're actually here is to get into deep thought. That's a new segue. I've just come up with that one. We'll see. God, dearie me, you know, I haven't taken my meds again.
You haven't got enough, have you, Rick?
I don't think so. I don't think so. So, well, let me give a little bit of background as to how this came about and how this invitation came about. So I'd spotted some posts, been following the System76 company for a little while about what they were doing, being a big free software and open source fan, and I saw Marty had posted some stuff about he's getting this System76 laptop, and so I said, just on the off chance, like, hey, how about coming on and doing a bit of a reveal and telling us more about it. So that's where this came about from. Just kind of shows you the power of social media, and before we know it, we've got Marty from Texas coming on to tell us about his laptop. So tell us a little bit about this laptop, Marty. What System76 model have you got, and what did it come installed with? And
all right, so I've got the System76 Galago Ultra Pro, okay? And so what it came down to for me is I was looking for, you know, every laptop you go out to buy, you're either getting a MacBook or you're getting some Windows machine that, you know, has Windows installed, and it's just, that's not the way I want to go. I was really looking for some high specs. I wanted a lot of RAM. I wanted a fast processor, and I wanted to move to an SSD. And so I searched every laptop configuration I could find for months, and I kept coming back to the System76 laptop. I wanted something thin too, because I travel a lot, and I want it to be light. I'm always on the go. I travel every week for work almost. So I kept coming back to this, kept coming back. And I have 16 gigs. I ordered this laptop with 16 gigs of RAM, a terabyte SSD, and an i7 processor. And let me tell you, I moved up from an i5 with a traditional hard drive, and I didn't realize how slow that computer was until I got this System76. And it's absolutely a beautiful computer. This camera you're going to see it on is not going to do it justice, but it's a 1080p screen. It's just got stunning views. It's got everything you want. You know, it came installed with Ubuntu 14.04 on it. So I've got Compiz on here and have all that stuff set up where I can do my fun little animations and stuff. Let's see if I can zoom in here. I want to show you does one thing here. See that? No Windows key.
Oh yeah, that's worth the money right there.
Yeah. And so there it is.
Cool.
Super thin.
That is really good. That's polished, isn't it? As you were talking there, I just dragged it up on the System76 website. I'll stick a link to this in the show notes in a moment. But that's a machine. I mean, this is i7 with a terabyte SSD. Wow. That must be like warp speed when you're doing things on that.
Wow. It's unbelievable. So they say that it weighs 3.9 pounds, but since I changed out to an SSD, it really dropped it down to right at 3 pounds.
Cool.
So it's super light.
I guess the thing on everyone's lips at the moment, what's the battery life like?
That's the only downfall I can tell you about right now. It's probably about 3 hours-ish, so it doesn't have a very super long battery life. But I don't really run around without being plugged in for the most part anyway, so I'm okay with that. That's the trade-off, you know.
And to be fair, I mean, 3 hours isn't bad when you're talking about, like you say, if you're not going to work and not intending to plug it in, then it's kind of fine. It's like, if you're on a train or something, you'd be on the train for 2 hours or so.
Yeah, so you'd still have some battery left, so. So that's really the only negative it has is the battery life could be longer.
So I'm looking
Yeah.
on the website here, and there's a really nice graphic of the unit as it's in rotation, and it looks like the case is a sort of a brushed aluminium. Is that right?
No, it's some kind of plasticky. I can't remember what they called it, but it's kind of like a gray, dark gray kind of. I call it a gunmetal gray, but I'm not sure what they exactly call it. But it's more of a plastic frame, so it's not aluminum.
I mean,
But
I think
it seems sturdy enough.
it seems that I mean, you know, the product itself, it's at that polished state. I mean, I'm looking here, and on the back of the product, it's got, you know, the System76 logo on the lid, which looks like it's etched in, and that looks really cool and nice. And I love that attention to detail, you know, with the little Ubuntu symbol on the keyboard. I mean, you know, it makes no difference to the functional quality of the machine, but in terms of like packaging for the consumer, an Ubuntu Linux laptop or Ubuntu Linux machine, or even just a general Linux machine that the consumer kind of thinks, hey, listen, I just buy this and I switch it on, and away I go, I'm logged in, I'm using it. That's really important. You know, that's what Apple are offering, and that's what free and open source kind of installed machine providers have got to do. So tell us about your experience when you got this thing and you opened it up out of the box. What was the experience like, Marty? How, you know, how involved was the configuration? What was that like? How did that go?
The configuration on it was just a massive setup, right? No, it was super easy. I mean, I literally had to connect it up to my Wi-Fi when I unboxed it, and just created a user account. And I mean, because basically it was already installed, and so I created a user account, you know, created a password, connected to my Wi-Fi, and it was up and running within about a minute or two. And it is the fastest machine I've ever had. It screams. I can't even express it, because when you download an app or update it to your app or whatever, you know, on my old computer it would sit there and chug away and install everything. And this one it's just you see the bar just it's like it's on warp speed, you know, and everything's installed. It's amazing. I do a lot of Android development, you know, as obviously you can guess. So when I go compile any version of my Android app, it takes seconds. It takes like usually under a minute now to compile the new version. My old computer was 3 or 4 minutes sometimes, especially with this Chaotic Earth app, which is a very large application. So the user experience was just absolutely phenomenal. Their customer service has been great. I had a couple of questions about adding a second SSD in there, and they responded within a minute, you know, within a few minutes to me. And then I also had a question about creating a separate home partition. I tried to see if they can do that for me before they shipped it to me, and they got back to me right away and said they couldn't, which I understand. But I mean, it was everything about the experiences was totally great. You know, I ordered it all online. I configured it, paid for it all online. You know, gotten a couple follow-up emails, you know, thanking me for my business, asking if they could do anything else for me. And then when I had a couple of questions for their customer service reps, they, you know, and technical support, they got right back with me within a few minutes. So nothing but positive things to say about System76.
Must be slightly harder for them to upsell when they sell a Linux laptop.
Well, I ordered everything maxed out on specs. The only thing I didn't order was like extra power cords or a bag to put it in, right? So they couldn't really upsell me.
Did they hear you say you had the SSD as well?
What's that?
Did they hear you say you had SSD in it as well?
Yeah, a terabyte.
Right, yeah. How much does that cost on its own? I've never even got close enough to like find out what it costs.
It's about $450 right now on Amazon.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It comes with the Samsung Evo 840.
Sure.
So you can get that for about $450 on Amazon, I believe.
It's pretty reasonable for a terabyte.
Yeah, it is.
I think I've only got 650 gigs in this thing, and it's not a solid state.
Yeah. Well, it's got a bay also for a second SSD in there, and I'm thinking about throwing one in there, because you can't have too much space. The cloud's great and all, but I have a lot of data, it turns out. So.
So that division is nice as well sometimes, right? I mean, being able to have your system drive and the non-system drive. So.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool to have space for two on a 14-inch laptop.
It's 14 inches, right?
So that's pretty cool to have the space for two drives on a pretty small laptop.
Yeah, it's great. So I think the early reports when this laptop first came out there were issues with the keyboard, and I haven't experienced that at all because it's been out for about a year and a half or so now. So they dealt with that issue, and I haven't had any problems with it at all. The mouse pad, I don't use it. Go ahead.
Had they left the Windows key on there? Is that what they've done?
I think they had some factory defects, but they corrected all of those. So, and there's definitely no Windows anything. There's no Windows sticker on the bottom of the sucker, and there's no Windows key. It's great.
I mean, so for me, I've kind of like I've got really hooked into the 17-inch laptop experience, and I've had a Samsung 17-inch laptop for a long time, and there seems to be, a big sort of lots of moves away to the smaller ones. I know John's got an Apple that's about a 13.7 something 14-inch screen, and but I just maybe because as I get old, my eyes don't work so well, and now I kind of need bigger things in front of me, and. But so the 14-inch screen be a bit small for me, but I see that they've got some other things here, and I'm just looking at there's a Kudu and another one called the Bonobo, is it, or something like that? Did you look at any of the bigger laptops at all, Marty, or was that just not in your frame?
Yeah, that wasn't what I was considering because, as I mentioned earlier, I travel all the time, so I'm always have to put it in a backpack and go to the airport and things like that. So I really wanted something small and compact and light. So that was really the reason I chose this. The only other comparison I could get with the same specs as this laptop was the MacBook Pro, and it was about $1,100 more. So it was going to be like $2,900 for that one, and I was like, man, this one wasn't cheap, but compared to a MacBook, it was very cheap. So, yeah, I didn't consider one of the bigger ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit tricky for me because I'm looking at the prices in dollars, which is a bit like this metric, as we said earlier, between Celsius and Fahrenheit. So I'm looking at these numbers and going, oh, looks like a lot of money. But some of these, I mean, I've been thinking about a System76 laptop for quite a while, and because one of the things that bothers me about, especially with like the introduction of EFI and secure boot and all these kinds of things, is just it's not so easy as it was like with my Samsung. I just bought the Samsung, plugged a USB key in it, and went fry the drive, get on with it, and that was it. But not so easy to do that anymore. So that's nice that this is packaged together. And I have to say, the two, I'm looking at the Kudu Professional, which is a 17-inch laptop, or maybe even the Bonobo Extreme. It's just, this looks like the kind of thing that you could play Crysis on, John, or some of the Steam games that are out there. This looks pretty amazing.
Looks like that one looks like a Clevo. In terms of there's a sort of a brand of laptops that you can get, often unbranded. So shops can buy them and then brand them up. That one looks the most like a Clevo. Like the others, I haven't seen the sort of style of chassis.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is a Clevo. So.
But they're beastly laptops, and the benefit, I guess, when you're buying something that comes with Ubuntu pre-installed is that the £50 that you would have spent on Windows has gone to the hardware and not to Microsoft. So,
50 if you're lucky. Yeah, I mean, if you get stuff like Office and that on top of it, and you're likely to want Office on the thing, yeah, you can double that quite easily, can't you?
So there's a good segue I wanted to tell you. Okay, so I do software consulting for a living. Okay, I always have to go to clients' offices and work in their offices, and so I'm showing you here my Linux laptop, right? I have LibreOffice on there for my Office product.
Okay.
I work with, all my clients email me, Word documents, PowerPoints, Excel spreadsheets, all that kind of stuff, right? No problem. I'll work on it in LibreOffice, do my work, can send it back to them, or can do my work and share with them, and they never have any idea I'm not working in Microsoft Office. It's great. So
do you ever have any compatibility issues with the files, like for a Word doc or something? Do you ever run into any issues with that? I only ask because I'm considering moving over myself.
When I first started using Linux about 5 or so years ago, 6 years ago now, I guess, I was using OpenOffice back then, and there were some issues. Like people couldn't read my documents after I would convert them to a Word document or whatever. But I haven't had any issues like that in at least 3 or 4 years.
Oh right, yeah.
People, yeah, they have no idea that I'm not using a Windows computer. And then when I tell them, oh, I'm on Linux, they're like, well, how can you do anything? I'm like, how can you do anything? It just works. It works well. So
that's pretty cool because I haven't used the kind of OpenOffice type things equivalents for a couple of years either myself. So
yeah,
it's just good to hear the compatibilities.
And now you have Google Docs as well. So I mean, Google Docs will work just fine, and you can save that down as well. So you have a couple different options right there that are free options that you don't need to go and buy anything Microsoft related. Hear that, Microsoft? We're shutting you down.
You can still send us free stuff though if you want.
Send us a ban first, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I would echo the same thing. I've been a massive kind of champion of free software and open source stuff for a long time. Similar sort of, I've done similar sort of work to you in the past, Marty, taking companies and businesses over to particularly specializing in the Linux desktop, really. Getting them the back end infrastructure in. But what really interested in me was getting them off the Windows desktop. And in an enterprise setting years ago, where people had specific tools they were using, then that worked quite well. And even now, currently I'm now product manager for Wi-Fi, and we use a mixture of machines there. The development team that I'm kind of partly responsible for, we all use Ubuntu or Linux stations, apart from one guy who runs on Windows. But the rest of us all use Ubuntu, and there's a mix. There are some people using Microsoft Office, the latest version of that comes with Windows 8, which I've never used. I've never really even looked at it. I'm running Ubuntu Linux for the Plasma 5 Tech Preview. I use LibreOffice all the time off my desktop. I'm very familiar with that, and I can share the documents around in the office without any problem, as you rightly say. I think things have improved so much that you've got that choice now. I think people you can choose to use either one, and it just works, and that's really good.
Don't get me wrong. I think I can still see the value that something like Office has to offer, but 95% of companies who have bought it aren't using the value above LibreOffice. There have been scenarios where I've been in an event and it's kind of like, I want something in the PowerPoint presentation, and these are really specialized things, but it's kind of cool that you can do it. It's like, I want something where even the person giving the presentation can't see the numbers in it because it's election results until a certain time. At that time, a bit of VBA script does a check, and it's like, aha, now I can inject the numbers from the server. It's pretty cool, that you can do that in a PowerPoint presentation. So it's almost a piece of software you've made without having to actually make a piece of software. So we used to give these presentations about election results at student unions, and then if the time had gone past a certain time and you haven't got the cached data from the server, download it, which means the person giving the presentation couldn't see the results. And I guess you just couldn't do that with LibreOffice. But that's kind of, these cases make up probably less than 5%, 2% of the use cases, where people actually use VBA macros and things, and everyone else is kind of just throwing money away.
Yeah. It's crazy to see these big shops and these big companies just they don't even consider Linux. You know, they don't understand that they can run their whole company on a software that's totally open source and free.
They've got no experience of it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a great little segue for me to do my preachy bit about the thing that I probably am most proud of, actually. But many years ago, we're going back to about 2001 now, and I was working for a company that sold trampolines in the UK, and the company was growing really fast and having lots of problems with its IT. It had NT4 and Windows 98 and all this kind of stuff, all networked together, and some accountancy software, and it just used to break all the time. And so I got asked to look at that problem and see whether I could solve it. And so I ended up proposing that we looked at using Linux. And I did a bunch of investigations with SUSE Linux at the time, which was Red Hat based. And I set up a network of some machines and set up some software and did some trials, and ended up, cutting a long story short, replacing the whole infrastructure from end to end. And we had a company with about 40 people, 40 desktops working in it, that at the time was using three servers that were all stacked in a cupboard somewhere, and 45 or so different PC laptops. And we replaced all of that infrastructure with one IBM Red Hat server. So we had an IBM server which had 2 Xeon cores in it and 6 disks. And we replaced all of the PCs with Linux Terminal Server X thin clients. So we had these little thin client boxes on the desk that were just solid state, and all of the software, the email functionality, we replaced the accounting system with a full inventory management enterprise resource planning system. We put OpenOffice at the time on the desktop. We provided everybody with it was actually the Mozilla suite. So they had Mozilla with the built-in email, and they had the KDE desktop. This was all running on Red Hat 7. So this server now was doing all of the work of the 3 servers before. It was also doing all of the work of the 40 Windows 98 workstations. Each thin client just had 64 megabytes of RAM in it. That was it, no hard disk. You'd switch them on in the morning and they would just boot off the server and off they go. And and having got all of that set up and rigged up, off it went, and it was running, and there was a lot of training involved. But there would have been replacing the software stack with anything Windows based and making all those changes in the business. So a huge amount, 80% psychology, 20% technology. Was all about caring for the support problems of the staff on the ground and the people using the software. But once we got about 9 months into that process, and everybody was familiar with how to do all the things that they wanted to do and how to open all the documents and send them out, the machine began running, and away it went. And that whole system, I actually took a screenshot of the uptime on this. The whole system, that one PC running 40 workstations, it gave an uptime of 1,070 plus days. No reboots, no shutdowns, no nothing. I put all of that and wrote it all up. And I actually got invited to go and speak about Linux and open source in enterprise at the European Parliament as a result of that case study. And that was over 10 years ago now that we were able to do that. And yet still, many enterprises don't grasp that opportunity that you're talking about, Marty, or that I've seen and experienced. They just completely missed the trick.
That's amazing.
I do think experience is the key word. I think a lot of them are just like, they either don't know someone who has experience of this, or they've got no experience of it themselves. I think like it's easy to forget when we're using it quite frequently that most people just have never been exposed to it. They've maybe like heard it mentioned and just assumed, oh yeah, that's tech stuff. I don't know anybody who really knows computers like that. And they assume it's like a programming thing anyway, that you'd only use it for like very specialized tasks, that you can't use it for like anything you want basically. But just not the exposure. I think it's just like it's just such a rare thing to find on somebody's computer.
I think also, I mean, like I think the reality of it is they just don't really care. Like, we're all sitting here because we think computers are interesting and we find them interesting and we like doing things with them and making them better. But if you're not in a technology-based company, they're just tools like hammers or drills. And if you told me to buy everyone in my workplace a drill, because that's what we're doing now, I'd just go to the shop and buy the one on the shelf, right? I wouldn't. The company probably wouldn't give me they'd say it's got to be under £100 drill or something, and I would go, okay, this one looks nice, and I would look around and see what everyone else is using and pick up the drill they're all using and go, must be good. 80% of people are using it, and I'd take them home and I would never think about it again. And I guess that's the same with computers. Like if you're running a clothes industry, you've got like a massive chain of clothes stores, and you've got computers in the stores. You could invest in this Linux thing, but hey, we've got 100 computers in each store, or 20 computers in each store, and they all work. And the cost is
like the one from before.
And the cost is probably kind of inconsequential to them. Sure, they could save a couple £100 on each unit, but it's not like every employee has a powerful, expensive computer in front of them. They probably only have like 3 computers in the shop or whatever, and people just use them. And there's just that thing on the side, and I guess in that respect, it's hard for us lot to think about it because we look at it objectively and we look at every little pro and con. But to them, it's just an expense and a box.
Yeah.
You think some of it is fear? I think some of it is fear from the unknown. They don't know Linux, and so they would never want to go take that step because they're afraid it would be a catastrophe for their organization. When in reality, it would probably be a very big, savings for them money-wise, and then also, as Rick was pointing out a minute ago, your uptime there on Linux is years. When we all know on Windows, it's not years because everything has to be rebooted.
And I guess, like you say, I mean, the fear also comes back as a risk, I guess. Like, if you're buying Windows, you know the cost of having Windows. It might break every 8 months, but because you've had it for 10 years, you already know the cost of it.
You can account for that, yeah.
You look at Linux and go, okay, the initial cost is 15% lower, but then there's an unknown risk, and like you say, it's just fear of the unknown, and it's like the likelihood is that will just be a 15% saving, but in their head they're like, it could turn into a nightmare, then I'm paying twice as much to fix it all. So at least they have a known versus an unknown.
You sound like a Rumsfeld, John.
I think that this also creates an opportunity, and I wonder whether, like my experience with these kinds of tools, this kind of like software implementation, or if you like, is that, as I said before, it really is 80% psychology and 20% technology. Quite a lot of my time is actually about being quite up and confident and positive and optimistic that things are going to work out, and then listening to the user, trying to wrestle with their work paradigm or their problem paradigm. What are you trying to do, and how do you do it right now? And then it's kind of, okay, well, have you thought about doing it like this, or maybe would this make life easier for you? So there's a lot of that nurturing of the individual people going on, and it needs that kind of person to champion it and to give the support to allay that fear. And then what happens is that, then people sort of start getting involved. That's been my experience. What about you? Because you're obviously doing something similar over there, Marty. What's your experience? Is it like that for you?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that, these folks are... I haven't been able to push any companies yet to move over to a Linux environment, but some of them use Linux servers, but they don't make the connection that they could switch out, the desktop PCs for Linux PCs, or they could run everything off of a Linux server. So the companies I work with over here are usually pretty large, and it seems like there's no way you're going to get that in a big company, but maybe there is, and I would be very excited to see that happen. And I think the results would be just nothing but positive. There'd be a learning curve for the employees, but once they got over that, exactly like you're saying, it's psychology, and then because the system works well. So, I mean, if I can get my wife to use Linux, She uses it, you know, and she's admitted, oh, that works so much better than Windows did, because her Windows computer was crashing on her all the time. She's, you know, the computer my wife uses, about 6 months ago, she had me put Windows on it because she thought that she needed it, and hopefully she won't ever watch this. But then about 6 months ago, she said, will you just take this thing and put Linux back on it? It works better, and I can't take this anymore. So,
yeah, exactly.
And I guess the core reality is, like, for most people who are going to use the internet, email, and Office, the actual, like there's the initial fear of, oh my god, this looks completely different, but your workflow is pretty much identical. You look for the Chrome logo, you click it. You look for Thunderbird logo, you click it. You look for a blue book, green sheets, or an orange presentation looking thing, and the buttons look a bit different, but actually it's pretty much the same.
it is, except it's more reliable.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there are two schools of thought here on this one, and I've experimented a little bit with this in the various kind of places where I've put stuff, where you get like I haven't experimented with the Unity desktop, but what I found when before Unity was brought out, basically the competing desktops were GNOME 2 and KDE, and GNOME 2 had all of the applications menus at the top of the screen, top left, and KDE had like a start button, bottom of the screen, bottom left. Now, my natural instinct was that intuitively I thought people are going to get along better with KDE because it's much more similar to the Windows experience, and so that's what I used to promote. And with a lot of the home users and people that I was installing stuff on laptops for, I'd give them KDE. And but I then also experimented later, particularly with some older people who'd been using Windows for quite a few years and were kind of stuck in that paradigm and were having the same problems of it breaking all the time, and they wanted it to work. So I just started putting standard Ubuntu. This would be like Ubuntu 9, I think, on it with the GNOME desktop top left. And what happened was that worked out better for the people that had got Windows usage experience. It seemed to be something in the psychology about when it was in the bottom left and a menu popped up, you kind of anticipated in your mind everything to be like Windows. But when you had to go to the wrong side of the screen, to the top left, you immediately began accepting in your mind that this was already different, and you started doing what John was saying. You started looking for familiar icons in the menus, and usually the first thing they'd normally find is Firefox. That'd usually be the first thing. And off they'd go, and they'd find that, and they'd be on the web, and then they'd discover from there. And that worked out. That worked out well. The unfamiliarity of the desktop kind of led them to fall back to what's my standard workflow, and then it worked out for them.
That's really interesting, and I guess it's you click on an icon in the bottom left, and it almost triggers like a muscle memory almost. You just start trying to do things automatically, and you probably get frustrated when that stream gets broken. But if you start off doing something completely different, your mind is actually active and thinking about what's going on, so you're able to process better, I reckon.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point there.
So one of the things that I found powerful, Marty, as well, to an extent, is kind of case studies, and where other people have done successful things, and having the context for that as well. One of the I was talking to a bunch of people in a third sector organization. So this was like a charity sector, a CO13 or something, I think you call it in the States. And I was doing a presentation about Linux and open source there, and the chief exec of the company, and you know things are going to go wrong when the chief exec of the company stands up and says, so what you're saying is that we're going to deploy this stuff, this people make in their bedrooms at home, and we're going to run our company on it, and it's all free, so nobody makes any money out of it. And I just thought, oh boy, and I knew at that point that the argument was lost. So I thought, well, I'm just going to bring out the big guns, just for fun. And I said, well, there's a little company in the States called Red Hat, and they've made $1 billion out of Linux from their bedroom, And I said, all of the educational establishment throughout the whole of Brazil, which is thousands of establishments, but one implementation across their universities uses a bunch of IBM Blade servers running Red Hat Linux into terminal servers that deliver to 30,000 desktops. That they run on this software that's been made in the bedroom. And so it was a bit of a fight back for a lost cause, but I did enjoy kind of like bringing out the artillery in that one.
Very nice.
So do you guys think, because I guess one of the sticking points of Linux has been kind of the home use thing. Do you think that for someone who isn't technical and doesn't have any technical friends, the problem is initially jumping to Linux, right? I mean, you say to someone, "Oh, it's better, it's cool, it's awesome," and the only option they really have is to go, "Can you install it for me?" Because most people, they're not going to want to put a disk in their computer, which basically destroys it and then remakes it. It's a reasonably scary thing. Even, I remember the first time, I think, when I was used to play around with DOS and stuff. Oh man, I don't want to lose all my game progress. Do you think now that you can buy it from System76, I say now, but do you think if my mum bought a laptop from System76, she would get on with it, given that she has zero in the way of technical prowess?
Yeah, I think, definitely, because Ubuntu has such a GUI on top of it now, and all the other distros do too as well. Linux Mint, OpenSUSE, they all have such a GUI interface. You don't have to go into the command line unless you want to, which I like to do. But people like your mom or my mom, they could totally use this OS and not ever have to do anything that would make them feel uncomfortable or make them feel like they were lost. So I think that it wouldn't be a problem for them.
Of course, you ain't met John's mum.
No.
I guess the cool thing about the System76 laptops, not that laptops really stray too far from the norm, but they would have put the work in to make sure that there's no weird, to get this Wi-Fi card working, you have to bring up a terminal and type in this set of commands. It's like, it just works, right?
Yeah, there was none of that when I set it up. It was just plug and play, basically.
I think it's a little the whole paradigm, especially for those of us that have been into the whole kind of free software community for a long time. We've got used to taking Windows off of machines or setting things up with dual boot and installing things for people, and of course that's not created any measure or limited the amount of measure in the commercial world for what kind of level of interest is there in buying a PC that doesn't come with Windows. Now, Apple have explored that by putting putting a very expensive package together, and I think we can say that model has been successful for them because lots of people have bought Apples as a kind of packaged product. The other example that shows that this model works are the Google Chromebooks. Now that's the other end of the market, a very low-cost product, in actual fact very unfamiliar to somebody who's had Windows. And you would have thought, I remember when they first came out, and I thought, I don't think that's going to work out. But they've sold truckloads of those. Ultimately, the point I'm coming to here is that there is a huge opportunity for that package, and what Marty was describing is, you get this thing out of the box, you switch it on, and it comes straight up and says, create a user, create a password, bang, and it's on your network and it's there. There's no installation. That's what the consumer wants. That's what the person that wants to buy this product wants. And we don't have enough of that now. I mean, I think System76 will ship to the UK, so I think we can get them here, but they have to ship them. There's quite a long shipping period. I don't think they have a station in UK or Europe. Do you know if I'm correct there, Marty?
I think you're correct. I think everything comes out of California, actually. But they told me mine said like a 2-week shipping period, and I had mine within about a week. So it was a lot. You know what? I need to pause for 1 second, guys. Be right back.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that that whole that kind of productization is where it kind of works out really, and certainly even with the early versions of Ubuntu 9 and Ubuntu 10 that I've put on people's desktops and on people's machines, they've gone off and used it. And very often, one of the tricks I used to do is just switch the updates off, switch the auto updater off and everything else, so the machine just stayed as it was, and it did the same thing today that it did yesterday, and it didn't ask the user any odd questions, and they would just go on and use it. And then you go back 6 months and I'd say, hey, Sue, how are you getting on with things? Oh, well, it doesn't do all the things that I used to like in Windows, but I like it, and it does what I want it to do. And yes, it's different, but it works. And that's all they want it to do very often. They want it to work.
And I almost think that the advent of kind of tablets and smartphones kind of makes Linux, well, just change more palatable.
Yes.
I think maybe sort of 5 or 10 years ago, you'd be like, I'm just used to Windows. If I have anything electronics, it's Windows, and I know everything about it. Whereas now, people are picking up Android tablets and iOS, and every year or two, it completely changes. Like the material design with Android Lollipop and iOS 7 when they changed all the design, and people are now more familiar with just sort of picking something up and going, okay, it's changed. Let me learn it. And maybe that's come from tablets and having more devices, but also the fact that tablet apps are changing every day. So I think now is actually a really good time for Linux for the home user, because we've started to boil down user paradigms to what they do, like browsing, email, and Office. Like 95% of people, that's 95% of their life on a computer. And they're used to doing it on a tablet slightly different, and sometimes on their phone slightly different, and on Windows. So I think it's probably a good time for someone, if they could just pick up a laptop from System76, or somewhere, ideally in a store, I guess. You want to walk into a shop and see it. I don't think nowadays, compared to maybe 5 years ago, seeing a completely different UI is going to put people off.
So we mentioned, sorry I had to run for a second, I had the postman at the door delivering a helicopter for me.
Oh, sweet.
Something important, right? So we were, I think Rick had mentioned Chromebooks, and it's a very good, I think they're just a perfect platform, because I've bought 2 Chromebooks myself, and I used one for a little while for a demo system, and then I sold it to my sister for my 12-year-old niece, and I just bought a new one last week for my mom, who's about to be 71 years old. I had it shipped to her. She lives in Georgia, which is over 1,000 miles away from me. Shows up at her door. She's 70 years old, and she's not computer savvy at all. She got it out of the box by herself, plugged it in, charged it up, connected to her Wi-Fi, entered in her credentials for Google, and she was off and running.
Yeah.
That was it.
And
so
have you been able to use the Hangouts with her at all to chat to her over the Chromebook?
I haven't this week yet, but I will probably over the weekend. So.
Because now that's something, isn't it? To be able to, if that works out with, I suspect that there may well be a couple of phone calls involved in that, maybe. But that's by the by. The example there is that your mum's not necessarily tech savvy or tech literate really in any kind of real way. You just ship a piece of kit out there and you open it on and switch it on, and it's like turning on the TV or anything else. That consumer experience, that's where it's got to be at. And John, you mentioned this idea of a shop, and I keep thinking about this. The Apple Store is just such a window of opportunity for the Apple products, and people go in those stores, and obviously somebody's thought about the presentation, the marketing, the shine and polish of the products, and every aspect of it, and people pay through the nose really expensive prices to buy those products. And there's a piece of me that I sometimes think, that a specific Linux or Ubuntu System76 shop that demos this kit, and we sell these laptops, and we kind of almost outgrade, hey, yeah, you can buy Windows for £500, but why would you want to do that? Because it's not going to work and it's going to get viruses. Yeah, you could buy an Apple for $2,000, but that's probably going to be a bit too expensive. But for $1,200, we can give you one of these reliable Ubuntu machines, super shiny. What do you think, guys? Is there any middle ground there for a kind of commercial retail offering?
Yeah, I think so. I think just quickly, I kind of think maybe in the past people have taken Linux and put it on netbooks as a way of trying to make the netbook cheaper, and I think that's maybe harmed Linux a little bit in the past because it's like, it's the cheap option, but it doesn't have to be. I think there is space. I think you were better off saying, look, it's cool, it's worth paying a couple more $100 than your Windows laptop because it ain't going to crash. So
Yeah.
It's definitely a
not good
time
for
where people are up for alternatives, if you know what I mean. There's a chance for other people to for other operating systems to get in and for people to almost welcome it now. It's just a period of shifting sands, I suppose you'd call it.
Maybe this is a business opportunity for you and me, Jack, seeing as we're not too far away. Maybe we could, I'm not suggesting we set up a shop together selling System76 laptops, but maybe we could become a System76 distributor and UK distributor or something, where you have to speak to the guys in California and get us to ship us 30 or 40 units that we can keep in stock, and then we can distribute them out to people and tell them the good news.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, I really do. The more exposure it has, the better. I mean, because we all know that it's a good user experience. It's reliable, and that really is what people really want and need. They just don't know about it. They think it's a geek product. So once they get their hands on it and see how reliable it is, you're not going to go wrong there. So
yeah, once it's sat in front of them, exactly. Then they're in there, aren't they? They can say, oh, wasn't all what I expected. This is one that you hear sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you know, I mean, I think I get very enthusiastic about these things, and I'm going to put I've put the link to Marty's particular laptop, the Gallagher, there in the show notes, and I urge viewers and listeners to the show, go and check out the System76 products. Go and look at their website. I think people are going to be very surprised. Even on the website, everything is really polished. This is, it's very professional and very well put together. And as Marty's laptop shows, these machines are really good, and I don't think we've said one single negative thing about it. And hey, nobody's paying us to do this review. This is just us talking about this stuff. But most importantly, of course, to thank our guests. Once again, you've spent a lot of time with us. Discussing these various things, Marty. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Maybe I don't know whether you've got any websites, and I know about Chaotic Earth, and we're going to get you back on about that, but where can people find out a little bit more about you? What are your social links? Where can they find out more details or get in touch with you, Marty?
I'm on Google Plus most of the time, so you can find me there, plus Marty Ballard, and then I'm also on Twitter, Marty331, so look for me out there, and you'll see a lot of Linux posts coming from me, a lot of Android. So there I am. So,
fantastic.
And it's been a lot of fun being on here. So I really appreciate it.
No, thanks for coming on. Yeah, it's been good to mix it up with a fourth member.
It's really nice to meet you, Marty.
You too.
So, well, there we go. So watch out then, folks. We're going to get Marty back probably later in the summer once we've got the Chaotic Earth app released, and we can do a review of that, and we'll get into the technical aspects of that. Of course, obviously, do get in touch with us if you want to. You can write to us at show@atrandom.org.uk, and we will reply to you within that 100-year window. That's guaranteed. The show will be live on our YouTube channel fairly shortly, and some of the shows, well, in fact, more of the shows will go live and be loaded up to our AtRandom website. That will happen randomly at some point in the future. Of course, the best time to really catch us is to tune in live here on Google Plus and watch the live show, because we tend to turn up for that. And so I'm going to sign off and just say that it's a pleasure and been a really, really interesting show. And I am uber into a System76 laptop. I just love that. I once again want to thank Marty for that. I've been Rick Timmis signing off. I'll see you all again.
I've been John Wordsworth. Thanks for joining us, Marty. Catch you guys next time.
I'm Jackson Matthews, and remember, everything's bigger in Texas except for Rick's phone.